Hey guys, it's Blaze2K, and today we're going to be discussing the Oneplus 5. I'm going to be giving you my non-BS opinion on whether I think you should buy it or not. Bear in mind, it's my opinion. Yours may differ. If you have a different opinion, let me know what you think in the comments. But I'm going to give you a rundown as to why I don't think it's worth buying the Oneplus 5, why I think it's a disappointment, and why I think it's overpriced. So, let's get into the video. So if you don't know who Oneplus are, they're a relatively new smartphone manufacturer. They rose to prominence back in 2014 when they announced and released the Oneplus One, which at the time was the closest to a smartphone flagship killer you can get for a relatively budget price. A year later they released the Oneplus 2, which was a marginal improvement, and then a year after that in 2016 they released the Oneplus 3 and the Oneplus 3T. The Oneplus 3 was a big improvement. It had a full aluminium unibody design. It felt like an Android version of an iPhone, really. It was a really substantial and high quality phone, and it was everything or close to everything that I'd wanted in an Android phone at the time. It was a good alternative to the Google Nexus or the Google Pixel.
Despite it being a good phone, it did have a lot of shortcomings. A lot of things I wanted it to have that it didn't have. For example, an SD card slot or wireless charging, but that's okay because it was a solid phone. It had a unibody design. It felt as high quality as an iPhone. So here's an iPhone, and here's the OnePlus 3. So at the time, I felt it's a lot thinner than an iPhone. It feels as high quality as an iPhone, if not better iPhone. So overall, I feel like I'm still getting a decent phone for the price, and it felt great in my hand. So with that said, I do think the OnePlus 3 was missing out on a lot. There was a lot of features I felt it didn't have that I thought it was about time it did have. There's features like, the micro SD card slot. I've been wanting one of those in an Android phone since the OnePlus One. I've had it in other Android phones, and there's a lot I felt the OnePlus 3 should have had, but it didn't have, and I think its build quality really pushed it over the line and made it worth buying for me. So overall, I think I put a lot of expectation into the OnePlus 5. I think a lot of other people did as well. And here we are in 2017. The OnePlus 5 has been announced. It's now shipping, I believe. It comes in two different variants. It comes in slate grey with 6 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage at $479, and it also comes in midnight black with 8 gigs of RAM, which is a lot, 128 gigs of storage and $539. Now, we're in 2017. A lot of the competition hasn't stood still. Samsung and Apple have innovated, and they've brought to light a lot of features that people want in a phone at this point, like waterproofing, SD card slots, wireless charging, and here we are with the OnePlus 5, and it has none of that. It's virtually, in my opinion, it's virtually the same as the OnePlus 3. It's just the OnePlus 3 with a marginally better camera, a marginally better battery, marginally better specs, and a marginally different, build design. And I'm disappointed, and I think a lot of people are disappointed. It's not got what people wanted, or it's not got what people want in a smartphone in 2017. And I'm gonna dive more into that in a second. I'm gonna list all the things that it doesn't have. But yeah, I don't think it makes the cut. It has a dual lens camera. One lens with 20 megapixel, one lens with 16 megapixel, and they're almost trying to copy the iPhone with that gimmicky telescopic lens thing. I don't think anyone asked for that. People would more prefer, them to put more time into perfecting the camera that they had, into making it as competitive as the Google Pixel, as the iPhone, as the SA. I think if they were able to put all their effort into one camera, one lens, and make it as good as the Google Pixel or the S8, then people would be happy. It's still got dash charge, which means you'll get a day's power in half an hour. It's got Oxygen OS. It's got the Snapdragon 835. It's got an Adreno 540 GPU. It's got a 3300 milliamp battery. I'll put specs in the description if you want to see more specs. But more or less, it's the same phone as a OnePlus 3T. Give or take a few extra spec bumps here and there, but there's still no innovative new feature that sets it apart. It's not got wireless charging, it's still not got an SD card slot, it's not got any sort of water resistance, and these are things that people really want and need in a smartphone these days, and it's just not there yet. And I understand OnePlus is a small company, that's undoubtedly a factor, but they're coming to the reality that they can't deliver that groundbreaking year-on-year innovation and budget smartphone that they claim to with the OnePlus One. So it seems more this time that they've focused on trying to copy or emulate some of the gimmicky features on the iPhone, as opposed to listening to what people wanted. As opposed to listening to what people wanted and requested, they chose to ignore the community this time and just try and copy some of the gimmicky features on the iPhone, which I think is a mistake. Overall, I'm not saying it's a bad phone. I think it's just a refined phone. It offers nothing new, and for the price it is, I would rather spend the extra few $100s on getting a Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus than Samsung Galaxy Note 7. Sorry, the Galaxy Note the Galaxy Note 8 is coming around the corner soon, or even, dare I say it, an iPhone or a Google Pixel. I think those phones have a lot more going for them. The OnePlus 5, it's a bit more pricey now than the OnePlus One used to be. I think it's less competitive, it offers less than the competition, and I think my opinion is I would rather spend the extra money in getting an S8 or something with all the features that I want it to have. So I think OnePlus's claim that they're pushing the industry forward, they're innovating, they're trying to break the mold, that they're never settling, and they're trying to make a smartphone that people want to use. I just don't think that holds true. I don't think it holds true. I think they're making compromises. They're not listening to what people want, and ultimately they're going to pay the price. It's nowhere near as compelling as the OnePlus One was when it was announced in 2014, and I think people are beginning to look elsewhere now. No doubt it's got a great community. It's still a very open source phone. You can still install your own ROMs and customize it. I think that's great, but I think in terms of a hardware perspective, it offers little to nothing new. And I think if you're wanting a lot of those groundbreaking new features like water resistance and whatnot, go for a Samsung this time. But yeah, overall I think they missed the ball this time. I think they took their eye off the ball, and to sum up this phone, I think I'm going to list not everything it has, but everything it doesn't have and that people wanted. And I think that'll pretty much sum up the OnePlus 5 and why personally I don't think you should buy it. But ultimately that's my opinion, not yours. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. But I'm going to list everything it doesn't have. get this list started. It doesn't have a micro SD card slot for expandable storage. That's something that's been hotly requested since the OnePlus One. I think they're really dropping the ball by not including that. People want to expand their storage, people want to have extra space to store their photos and their apps, and you know, every phone's including that now. Even the Samsung line is including that. So I think they're missing out, and a lot of people are pretty peeved off that it doesn't have expandable storage at this point. And instead they opted to go for dual SIM, which is less important in my view. It doesn't have wireless charging, so you can't plop it on the bed next to you on the wireless charging pad at night, and not have to worry about cables. So no wireless charging yet. It's kind of a bummer. I used to have that in my Note 5 and it was pretty useful. No water resistance yet, so you can't take out, you cannot take your phone out, your OnePlus 5 out in the rain and not have to worry about it getting fried. That's something it doesn't have. It doesn't have a larger battery. I think there was a big demand for it to have a larger battery this time, because I think people would rather have a thicker phone with a supreme battery rather than a skinny phone. I think battery life is more important than how thin it is. And secondly, next, I think they could have really did a lot more on the camera front. I think they spent more time focusing on trying to copy over that gimmicky dual camera system that the iPhone has, and instead of really refining their camera, making it a really good solid competitor to the Google Pixel or the S8, I think they chose to focus on gimmicks over anything. And from what I've seen, it's a pretty poor camera. It has no optical image stabilization, so what that means is when you're taking videos, it's going to be jittery and jumpy all the time. It's not going to smooth that out for you at all, which kind of sucks. It's not got any sort of retina or face scanner that the S8 has. It's not a big deal, but it's another thing. It's another nail in the coffin. It doesn't have a heart rate monitor. That's not a big deal, but still, it's useful for some people. And one thing a lot of people were wanting or requesting was a curved bezel-less display. And there's been a lot of new phones on the market with an 18:9 aspect ratio, like the LG G6 and obviously the S8, which means it's a bit taller as the on-screen buttons as opposed to the capacitive ones, so you're getting a lot more screen for a lot more bang for your buck. It still has the big chunky bezels on the top and bottom, just as big as the OnePlus 3 does, which kind of sucks. It doesn't yet have a Quad HD or HDR display, which is not a big deal to me because I would rather have the battery life. I think 1080p looks just fine. I'm not a big proponent. I'm not a big supporter of the Quad HD phones. I think they're only useful for things like VR. That's it. I still really like 1080p. It doesn't have Force Touch and doesn't have stereo speakers. I don't think. I may be wrong about that, but I don't think it has stereo speakers. And it doesn't have modular components, which is not a big deal, but it's just another one of those gimmicky features that it doesn't have. But yeah, the main things for me is water resistance. It doesn't have that. It doesn't have the larger battery. It doesn't have wireless charging. It doesn't have a micro SD card slot. And I think they could have really put a lot more effort into the camera. I would rather have had a panoramic second camera lens as opposed to the telescopic one. I think the panoramic lens would be much better, as it was on the LG G6. And yeah, I think they really dropped the ball. They didn't include a lot of what people asked for months, even years. People have been asking for the SD card slot. They never delivered it. And yeah, I think they dropped the ball. I don't think the OnePlus 5 is good enough. I think they're not going to sell as much this time around. But yeah, if you want my opinion, If you have around $500, I would say save a bit more. Save a few more $100, save a couple of hundred more, and get yourself a Samsung Galaxy S8, get yourself an LG G6, get yourself an iPhone or a Google Pixel. You know, the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 is just around the corner, so that's going to be a good alternative. But yeah, I don't think the OnePlus 5 is worth it, and that's just my opinion. You know, feel free to challenge me. Feel free to give me your opinion in the comments. I'll try and read all your comments. I'll try and even respond to a lot of them. But yeah, that's my opinion. I don't think it's worth it. I think they've came well short of the finish line this year. I think they've not been listening to the community whatsoever, and it's just a rebranded OnePlus 3. So that's my opinion. Thanks for watching. I'm going to be posting more tech videos like this. I'm going to be posting more VR videos, more game videos across the board. I'm going to be posting all sorts of videos. So thanks for watching. This is Blaze2k. Hit the subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me if you kept coming back. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and give me a like if you liked it. So thanks.